And welcome everybody to Games Over Plastic. This is a special episode. We don't know what we're going to call it yet. Maybe special episode 1, maybe DLC1. We are getting together today to do a spoiler cast for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, a game which was amazing that we all just recently beat. So that's what we're going to be doing today. This entire episode is just going to be us talking about and spoiling, that's your warning, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth on the PlayStation 5. I am Midnight as always, and I'm very thrilled to be joined once again by our amazing co-host, who unfortunately couldn't make it to last week's episode, but he's back again. The man, the myth, the legend, the master platinum trophy hunter, Sean Mason, who just finished a race. How you doing, Sean?
I'm doing great. I just did a half marathon. Not my first half marathon, won't be my last, obviously. But the entire time I listened to Final Fantasy VII music. It's a combination of the OG soundtrack and the remake soundtrack. Unfortunately, Rebirth soundtrack is not on Spotify yet, so I can't add that. That will be added to the playlist. But yeah, nothing like some Final Fantasy VII music to get you fired up to go run 13.1 miles.
To
It was
get you
great.
pumped. This was your first big race in a while since you had your accident, right?
Yeah, it was the first. I had done a couple like smaller races, but this is my first one in a year and a half since my accident a year and a half ago, and it felt great. Didn't get the PR. I just 1:22:31, so an hour and 22 minutes and 31 seconds. So not my PR, but it felt great to just be out there, and yeah, it was awesome. Went out to breakfast after, even though I already
So
had breakfast before.
so you said an hour and 22 minutes was your time?
Yeah, in 31 seconds. Yeah,
So that's 82 minutes, and it was 13 miles, right? 13.1.
13.1. Yeah.
So that's a 6.26 minute mile, which I'm not a racer. I have no train of thought. I mean, look, I'm fat, guys. I don't know, but that seems pretty good to me. Is that pretty good? 6 minute mile.
I mean, I don't want to I'm not trying to brag, but yeah, I mean, I guess it's pretty good. Yeah, I
All
mean,
right.
I could
most
run like
people,
4 miles in that time.
most people try like when they're like aiming for like a half marathon or like a they like half marathon people are like I want to finish in under 2 hours, or in like a marathon people are like I want to finish in under 4 hours. But like for me, it's I've always been like I want to do like one. I always aim for like 1:15 to 1:20 for a half marathon, and then a full marathon I'm aiming for sub 3. So
All right. Well, that's what's up. Very, very nice you getting back on the saddle again. It's good stuff. We're happy for you. Next, we have our second co-host here. He is the graphics guru, the man who does the amazing artwork that you see. He is the indie and live service gaming maestro, Hodge. How you doing, my friend?
I'm good. I'm still getting over the New York flu. My nose has been stuffy since Monday, basically. But I just got back from a Breaking Benjamin concert last night, which was freaking awesome. So they did play "Blow Me Away." I was wrong. I was so adamant they wouldn't play it because I thought it was just a soundtrack song, but they did play it. So the Halo 2 fan in me went crazy listening to that song, and yeah, it was awesome. But I'm back. I'm ready to record and talk about some Final Fantasy.
Heck yeah. That sounds good. So you got sick, and then you went to the concert and got everyone else sick. No, I'm just playing.
Yeah,
Hopefully,
yeah.
figured out
Well,
good.
yeah. Like Sunday night after the concert, we were out at the bar. I was hanging out with Lord Cognito and a bunch of the LSM guys and a bunch of buddies and stuff. And my throat started tickling, which usually is just allergies. I get that all the time, especially in the spring. But then I woke up, my nose was stuffed. I'm like, it's also allergies. But then I got home and I was feeling achy. I was like, okay, now I'm sick. And then by by the next day, I wasn't achy anymore, but my nose has been stuffed ever since. So I'm like, it's probably a mix of getting sick in New York and my allergies just kicking my ass, because they always do in the spring. I once was not able to run for an entire spring because I just couldn't breathe for an entire spring, and it was terrible. But yeah, hopefully it'll go away soon. So
Hopefully, yeah. Well, we hope you feel better soon. Concert sounds like a lot of fun. All right, let me get the administrative stuff out of the way, and then we're going to hop right in it. So Games Over Plastic, as you guys know, this is the podcast for the agnostic gamers. All games over here, no console wars. We just have fun. It will be up on my YouTube channel, midnightdt, so youtube.com/midnightdt, or just search for Games Over Plastic if you want to see the video version, which features cams and may feature some gameplay if I decide to. Well, I'm going to be editing the video. If I want to throw in some random gameplay clips, I might. But either way, We are also available on podcast services everywhere: Spotify, Apple Podcast, Overcast, Pocket Cast, every cast that you can think of, you can find us. So we appreciate your support. Please, as we are a brand new podcast, we're struggling to find an audience and to gain traction. Anything you can do to help, likes, comments on the video on YouTube really do help on the algorithm. They look for that. On podcast services, you can leave us 5-star ratings, or as Hodge said, maybe even a 4-star. But we would prefer 5. It doesn't cost anything. We appreciate your support. This will go up. The podcast goes up every other Monday, but this is a special episode, so we are coming to you in the off week. So that's the administrative stuff. With all that said, let's get into this, shall we? We did beat Sean. You want to say something?
I was just about to jump in. It's on. I'm just like, I'm ready to go.
He's ready to go. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Let me go ahead and pass the ball over to Sean Mason. We just beat Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, which I believe is a PlayStation exclusive, right? It's not on PC, is it?
PS5. Yep.
PS5. Great game. Sean, take it away. What were your thoughts?
All right. First of all, 10 out of 10 game. Outstanding. It's definitely my game of the year. I don't see anything beating it. But I have to talk about the ending right now. We got to jump right in.
Okay. All right. So, 6 minutes in, right to the ending. Let's go.
We're Tarantinoing this. Starting the end, move back.
I haven't been able to talk about it with anyone because nobody's beaten it yet that I've talked to about it. My dad hasn't beaten it yet because he's been dealing with a bunch of other stuff, so I can't talk to anyone yet. But, okay, so when Sephiroth comes down and Cloud blocks the stab over Aerith, I was like, oh my god, she's gonna live. She's alive. And then you get the noise.
Yeah.
And then you realize she really did get stabbed. I started crying. I couldn't believe it. Aerith really grew on me in this game. I'm telling you, she really grew on me. I was not a big not that I wasn't a fan of her, but throughout this game, she really grew on me. I think her character was great. And I started crying. I'm like, dang it, they're really gonna kill her. But she's alive in another world, in another timeline with Zack. I love that. The fact that there's like these 2 different universes going on where Zack and Aerith are alive and Cloud is alive with the party, and the fact that Cloud still sees Aerith in his world, but no one else can see her. It's crazy. I have a feeling that the only people who like can acknowledge that there's like another world, I guess, where I guess they all of them died in Midgar before they left. The only people who know that are like Zack, Aerith, and Cloud. And the only reason why I think Cloud and Zack know is because I think they're linked together. And oh my gosh, playing as Zack against Sephiroth at the end there, oh my gosh. I was blown away, but I was just a ball of emotions. I couldn't believe it. But I'm so glad that Aerith is somehow alive and the other, I guess, I don't know if we're calling it a timeline or another world. But yeah, that's my thoughts on the ending right there. Sorry.
Okay, I do just want to remind everybody, you, my co-hosts, of course, and the cast here, that we will not be spoiling the original Final Fantasy VII or what was the other one called?
Crisis Core.
Crisis Core. We're not going to spoil those because one of the hosts here is a loser and hasn't played the original yet. We're not going to say who or anything, but I'm going to play it this year, so please don't spoil that. But we are definitely going to spoil Rebirth, and Remake is fair game too.
Yeah,
I am going to say some of the spoilers for Rebirth though are going to spoil the original game.
Yeah.
Well, of course, but I already experienced Rebirth. But let's try not to spoil anything that was from the original that wasn't in Rebirth.
It is. Please. I mean, it is crazy that in part 3 of this remake, you're going to find out that it's a prequel to Kingdom Hearts and that Sora's at the end. But yeah, it's crazy. But
yeah.
No, at first when I was watching that part with where is that in his head that he blocks it, or did something shift to where he missed?
Here's my perspective. My perspective is that the reason why Cloud sees it as he blocked it, I think it's alluding to the fact that she's alive in the other world. I think that's what it is. Like, it's alluding to the fact that she's alive in this other world with Zack, not in your world anymore. That was my interpretation of it.
I got you. Along with we'll get into it later more, but the thing is, like in the original, I felt really nothing for Aerith. Like it's a huge moment in the original game when that happens, but this game, we'll talk about more other people, but every character in this game gets like their story and you feel for every single person in this game. So I love that this game did that. We'll get into it later when we talk about other characters, but yeah, they definitely made you feel for Aerith, definitely more in this one.
Yeah. So I was a little confused. I guess we're talking about the ending instantly. So, wait, I guess if we're going to talk about the ending right away, I was a little bit confused. The reason why this game is not a 10 out of 10 for me is because Aerith is dead, and I don't like that. Obviously, I knew that was going to happen. Everybody, I mean, that's the spoiler that everybody knows about. It's like the
Yeah,
Darth Vader.
that's
It's like the Darth
it's the
Vader
Luke,
spoiler.
I'm your father.
So
He was dead the whole
obviously,
time. Ending.
I knew that was going to happen, but I still was very upset that it happened. And I was also confused because I'm watching and I'm like, she didn't get stabbed, did she? I'm like, did I look away at the screen for like half a second and miss her getting stabbed? Because it didn't look to me like she got stabbed. And then all of a sudden she's dying on the ground and she's dead. And then all of a sudden, like, they show that scene at the end where they're like out by the airplane. It's the beautiful scenery. And then Aerith shows up and I'm like, yes, she's alive. And then I'm like, wait, no. That's Ghost Aerith. She's not really alive, and I'm pissed. So I can't. I know you want to come in, Sean, but hold on. I can't give this a 10 out of 10 because they killed Aerith. She might be alive in another world, and they kind of hinted that maybe she'd come back because they're talking about reunion, whatever reunion. So maybe they're going to bring Aerith back to life, which I believe would be a change of pace from the original, but they could do that. They are making some changes. But Aerith is by far. It's not even close. Aerith is the best girl, in my opinion, in this game by so far and away. Like, I don't even understand how there's an argument. Aerith is the best. Go ahead. Sean, did you want to jump in, or Hodge?
Well, yeah, I just she's not. I mean, she's dead in the world we're mainly playing in, but she's still alive in the other world. And
I don't need that Marvel BS, Sean.
I kind of take offense to the fact you're taking a point off the game here because a character you liked died. I don't think that that takes off with the quality of the game here.
Right. Well, to be fair, I'm not taking a full point off. I'm just saying it's not a 10 out of 10. If I had to rate it, it's probably like a 9.4 out of 10 or something. You know what I mean? But if Aerith was alive, honestly, I would be real tempted to be like, it's 10 out of 10, guys. My girl.
But she is alive.
I don't want to hear about the Marvel BS multiverse. Okay, she's a ghost. She's dead in our world, and I'm sad. Okay,
I think you're going to be in for a rude awakening in part 3 then, when the timelines combine and Aerith and Zack come back to the world we're playing in, and everyone's back.
Well, I hope so. Hodge, I saw you were wanting to get in there. What were your thoughts on that?
Well, I guess we can get into the best girl conversation because, all right. For a while, I was on the train of Aerith is best girl, but it's because up until literally playing this game, not even remake, I always thought and assumed that Tifa and Barrett were married. I had no idea until this game that they weren't even together because they're always together in the original. So I mean Barrett's water's white, so I was like, or Asian, so I was like, oh, okay, it's Tifa's kid. Had no idea. That hold on, I'll turn it down a little bit. I had no idea that they weren't together. So, and then the fact that Aerith the entire game is basically like, I wish you were Zack, is basically her mindset towards Cloud, and up until they're on the Ferris wheel, and she's like, I always wanted to be with Zack, but right now I want to be with you. I'm like, that's a lie. You want to be with Zack at all times. This is bullshit. You're lying. You're counting on him for second place. Whereas the entire game, Tifa has been in love with Cloud since she was a kid. And she has always been loyal to him and loves Cloud. And that is why Tifa is best girl.
I don't think, as someone who didn't play the original game, I don't have the reference and the train of mind that you guys have about like how great Tifa is. I honestly feel like these remakes haven't done Tifa any favors because she just hasn't got that much lovability screen time. Like Aerith is all in your face, like your ride or die, your best friend, super sweet, super lovable. She's saving the day, she's saving Cloud. And Tifa's just kind of there. Like, I feel like they maybe have given Tifa the short end of the stick in this because she hasn't won me over other than her looks. Obviously, she looks great, right? But other than her looks, like, she really hasn't won me over as an uneducated gamer, as someone who didn't play the original. I'm just like, yeah, she's cool. She's whatever. I feel like she hasn't had as many voice lines. I feel like she hasn't had as many powerful moments as Aerith has. So that may be unfair to her. What do you guys think about that?
It's funny you say you don't think she's had as many voice lines because I did do a little little digging and little research on the number of lines each
Oh,
character has, and
wow. Okay.
yeah, and Tifa and Aerith in specifically in Rebirth, Aerith has 11 more spoken lines than Tifa does. It not including any optional content. Like you know how you can optionally talk to the character sometimes.
Yeah.
So I did do that. So she has 11 more, and then in Remake, Tifa actually has more lines than Aerith.
Mm.
And I equate that probably to Tifa's introduced a lot earlier in the game than
Yeah,
Aerith.
in remake, yeah.
Yeah.
I just love that you look that up. Like Sean's bringing the receipts. What made you decide that you wanted to look up the count of the voice lines?
I was really bored at work on Friday during my prep period. So yeah, I was really bored at work during my prep. I had nothing to do, nothing to grade. The people I usually hang out with had had a team meeting, so I was just chilling in my room, and I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna do some research on this. Um, oh, I was gonna jump to a completely different subject, but we'll get there. We'll get there.
Okay. Yeah, let's keep it structured a little bit. All right. So, best girl, let's just go around the horn real quick. Let's put in our votes. Gun to your head. Who's the best girl? For me, it's Aerith. For me, it's not even fucking close by far and away. But obviously, I think you guys might feel different. Hodge, gun to your head. Best girl is who?
Tifa.
Tifa. How close is it for you? For me, it's not.
It's close because I do love Aerith, but just through as this game went on, you could see how much Tifa loved Cloud, whereas Aerith so often was just like because there's the scene in Gungaga where she meets his parents, and the whole time she's like they're out. I think she's there outside, and Tifa's like, "Oh, do you still like love Zach or whatever?" And she's basically like, "Yeah, like I still want to find Zach." And so to me, Cloud always felt like a consolation prize. Like if we're not talking about being with Cloud, I could see the argument for Aerith. She seems to be the much more caring one, the one who would take care of you, the innocent one. And where Tifa's just like a badass girlfriend you'd want to, date. But in terms of in a relationship with Cloud, Tifa just seems to be there for Cloud more than Aerith does.
Okay.
So I gotta go Tifa.
Fair enough. So you're going Tifa. And then how about you, Sean? I think you said Tifa, but take it away.
I mean, yeah, I like Tifa a lot. I really liked her in the original game as a kid. I like her even more what they've done in Remake and Rebirth. I think overall she's a wider range of I think she's a much wider personality than Aerith. I think Aerith is great. She grew on me a lot, but I definitely agree with Hodge. I think I just think she's more like depth of knowledge, and the way she just seems so cool. She's like a cool character. She really does care about Cloud, and I think to the point where she even knows that it would probably bother Cloud if she tells him, hey, she didn't know that he was at the Nibelheim like that during the fire. She had no idea he was there because he was in the soldier outfit. But Cloud thinks he was what Zack was when you know what I'm talking about. And I think Tifa really cares about him, and she doesn't say that to him because I think she knows that it would bother him. I don't know. I think that goes a long way for me. I think she really cares about Cloud. I like the way she fights too. I like her mannerism. She's looking out for everyone, especially in Remake. In Remake she is very trepidatious about going to bomb the reactors. She's really worried about the outcome it's going to have on the citizens of Midgar, and specifically Sector 7 and all the different sectors. But she goes along with it because she's ride or die for Barrett. And it's funny that you said, Hodge, you thought she was married to Barrett for like a long time.
I did too.
I could definitely
game.
yeah, I could see why you would think that, just because she's so gung ho. But I think it goes far to show her about like her personality. I think she was doing that for Marlene because she knew that like without Barrett, Marlene would fall apart. So I think she was so gung ho to be with Barrett, make sure he's safe. He's got to stay safe, and if I'm not there, he's not going to be safe. That because if anything happens to him, what's going to happen to Marlene? So I think that goes a long way for Tifa.
Yeah. Okay. So you're picking Tifa. Is it close at all or no?
I mean, no.
No. Okay. So you're with me. You're with me. It's not even close, but on the
it's not
scale.
that. But I like them all. Like they're all great characters.
Yeah, they're all great. We're gonna do. I have a fun game that we're gonna do at the end that I haven't told you guys about. So you'll see. We're gonna kind of rate each character and average the scores just for fun. But we're gonna do that at the end. But okay, so there's that. So we've gone over a bit about the ending, and we've gone over Best Girl. Why don't we go ahead and why don't we talk about the gameplay, the combat? Let's talk about the combat, shall we?
Can I say one more thing about the ending?
Please. Yeah, take it away.
With the epilogue. but I know neither of you guys played First Soldier, the mobile game.
No, no.
Okay, well, there's a character that appears named Glenn. You know in the scene when when they're in Shinra's Rufus's office,
Yes.
and
Yeah,
there's a guy,
yeah.
the hooded figure. Yeah, that guy's named Glenn.
Okay.
He's from First Soldier, and that alludes to a lot of
Oh.
yeah. So if you know any backstory for him, he has a lot to do with Sephiroth. So he is in cahoots with Sephiroth. That's all I'm gonna say.
I was wondering what was up with him. I was like,
Yeah.
is this something from the older game that I missed? Because I didn't know who he was. Apparently,
That-
Rufus shot him in the back, and apparently he's some kind of leader of Wu Tai or whatever, but I don't know who
hmm
the fuck he is. And also,
Mhm.
apparently, at the end, we saw there he's also like part Sephiroth himself.
Yeah,
Um,
he's in cahoots
so
with Sephiroth. So,
Yeah, I was
but
gonna
yeah,
say, I was like, did I forget something from Seven? I don't know who the hell this guy is. Looks like he's part of Organization 13 or something. I had no idea who he was, and yeah, okay, that explains why. Because yeah, I'd
yeah,
never played that.
he's from the yeah. I was a nerd and played that mobile game. Even though I played like 3 mobile games in my life, and they're all related to either Final Fantasy or Kingdom Hearts. So
okay,
There you go.
all right. So we good on the ending for the moment?
yeah, I just wanted
All
to
right.
mention that. Yeah.
All right. So I think why don't we go ahead and talk about some of the actual gameplay a little bit here? Why don't we talk about the combat and the characters and how they relate to the combat themselves? Like, um, what were we thinking about the combat? Who did we really enjoy playing with? What abilities and stuff like that? Was it an upgrade over remake? Hodge, when are you going to take it away with this first?
It was a huge upgrade. I honestly forgot that a lot of people were saying like, "Oh, it's so much better than Remake's combat," and I remember it being really clean. But I do remember playing the Yuffie DLC in Remake and finding Yuffie so fun to play with. I'm like, this is way better than Remake's combat. But yeah, it's so smooth in this game. I wonder what the classic mode of it would have been like. I've never tried it because I like the action part of it, but yeah, it's really smooth. My party was always, if I could, it was always Barrett, Yuffie, Cloud. That was always my 3 that I went with because I liked having the distance at like Cloud for the nice up close beat 'em up, and then also Barrett was a cheat code with if you use bonus round, you could stagger people so easily. So I always used that because it was so helpful, especially when fighting Odin, which is the one I was talking. I very quickly like hinted at it. I don't know if it was in Discord or on the podcast where I was like, you need Barrett to stagger someone because when you fight Odin, he has that undodgeable attack that if
Yeah.
you don't stagger him, he slaughters you in one hit.
Yep.
So that's why I switched Barrett and I kept him in my party ever since then. But yeah, that's who I always played with. That was always the most fun. Tifa was honestly my least favorite combat because she was so kind of up close and you had to land those punches. Whereas Cloud, you have a little distance because you can lunge with the sword. Where Tifa, you had to be right next to him, punching and kicking him. Then Red 13s was really fun. I was really sad you couldn't play as Vincent, but I'm assuming you'll be able to in the third one.
Yeah, probably.
At least I really hope so because Vincent Valentine is one of my favorite characters of all time. And and then obviously playing as Zack and even Sephiroth was really fun. But yeah, that was my party. And then Odin was my go-to summon because him and Alexander were so OP that I always use them for summons. But yeah, that's the gameplay was so much fun. But yeah.
Okay. All right, Sean, how about you?
Oh
What are
yeah,
your thoughts?
gameplay's fantastic. I think Remake's combat was great, but this is definitely an upgrade over Remake's combat.
Mhm.
Um, Hodge, my go-to party, very similar to yours, except I replaced Yuffie with Tifa. So I'm like the OG party right there. I got Cloud,
There you
Tifa, and
go.
Barrett. And I totally agree with you. Barrett's bonus round, completely cheat code, complete cheat. It is
Oh
so
yeah.
I started my hard mode playthrough yesterday, and
Mm.
it comes in the clutch so much in hard
Nice.
mode. Um,
Nice.
my favorite character to use personally is Cloud. I just love Cloud's gameplay. I love the addition of when you're far away and you swipe with a sword and like the wind, like the blade comes out. It looks like a
Mhm.
wind blade, but it's not wind. But
Yeah.
yeah, I really like that, and I actually love using Tifa. I think she's awesome. I think those punches that brings that pressure gauge just goes up and up. The stagger meter goes
Mhm.
up and up. It goes so fast, and I love when the enemy is staggered, where you hit triangle with her, you can make the damage boost go like up too. So I love that. I like her abilities. What do you guys think of the synergy abilities too? That was really I like that addition too, like the synergy
Mhm.
where like, you have 2 characters do like a almost like an animated move
Yeah.
together. I really like those. Some of those are really good. What do you guys think of those?
Hodge.
You can
All
go.
right,
However you
so
want to go.
okay, yeah. So I'll just talk about. So the synergy abilities were really cool. I didn't use them as much as I probably should have, but like in boss fights, sometimes I would break out those synergy moves, and they did a lot of damage too. Especially if you spec into the skill tree. Some of the skill tree items were like to increase synergy damage. So yeah, they were really cool, cinematic, and they did good damage. As far as the combat goes, I thought the combat was amazing. I think this is like perfect JRPG combat. I wouldn't mind if almost every Final Fantasy game going forward kind of takes this combat. Maybe make some small tweaks here and there, but I think this is just it's so dialed in, it's so perfect. Um, I mentioned before that my dude from Remake was Barrett. I loved Barrett. I was a Barrett main, but really Barrett took a back seat in this one to Yuffie. Yuffie was my girl. I love Yuffie. Anytime I could, Yuffie was my leader. You know, you pick your leader of the party because I just loved her combat so much. Like she's so fun. I had like this build where I would use the plasma discharge skill so that every time you fill up an ATB gauge, there would be this big electric explosion around your character, which would do damage and kind of stun the enemies a little bit. So I would pop that out. And then I had like I was throwing out the little windstorm ability. I was throwing out the elemental jutsus where like you could use fire or cold attacks, etc. You know, assess the enemy, see what they're weak to, pop her elemental jutsu, get in their face. Also, so my main party, like if you could pick anybody, I think we'll go around the horn. This will be fun. Let's say you're coming up to a boss. You have access to the entire party, right? My main three that I would always pick if I could is Cloud. So I got Cloud, and I had the materia, the provoke materia on him. He's kind of my tank. He's there to just do damage, be awesome, and kind of draw the enemy if needed. Then I had Aerith was my support. I got Aerith cranked up with as much magic attack damage as possible. I had auto cast and heal on there so that she could pop heals as needed. And then also, this was the big thing. I got the Comet materia later on, which is like the biggest spell that I could find, I think, in the game. The Comet materia and the Synergy materia that you get later on Aerith. So what was so amazing, I'm playing as Yuffie. She's filling up her ATB gauge so fast. Every time she fills up her ATB gauge, there's this big plasma spark that does a bunch of lightning damage to the enemy. I'm all up in the enemy's face. I'm hitting them with elemental weak damage because of her elemental jutsu. And then every time I fill up an ATB gauge, I'm either using the mug ability to get in their face and steal an item, or I'm throwing out the windstorm. And every time you do that, anytime you use an ability like the windstorm or the bug or whatever, Aerith automatically starts casting Comet because you have the Comet synergy thing for free. It doesn't use any MP. So she's nonstop spamming Comet with max magic damage while I'm in the enemy's face, static shock bursting people, beating the shit out of them. And Cloud's doing his thing with his provoke and his sword stuff. And I just found that this team was so good. Like we just steamrolled and demolished the vast majority of enemies with that team. So that's my my three. Let's go around. Let me ask you guys that. First of all, if you want to comment about what I just said, feel free. But also, what is your three and what is your strategy if you can pick from anybody and there's a tough boss coming up? Sean? You
Oh,
look like
I had said it before. I always went with Cloud, Barrett, and Tifa. Anytime I had access to everyone, it would always be Cloud, Barrett, and Tifa. And usually I'd be controlling Cloud, but I did, I would switch to Barrett oftentimes when sometimes when the boss would like go high or
Mhm.
climb on the walls sometimes with some of the bosses. I would switch to Barrett, and then once I pressured an enemy, I would switch right to Tifa and go right up there and just start punching them, punching them, punching them to just get that pressure gauge up because my whole goal is I just want to stagger as much as possible. And I assess every single enemy I come across.
Me too. Yep.
Always,
Mhm.
always, because that's the perfect amount. One character that I did kind of use as well was I did use Kate Sith a lot.
Mhm.
Very different character than any of them.
Mhm.
Often very strange with his microphone, basically a megaphone, I guess. But he has an ability. I forget what I should have wrote it down. I forget what it's called, but he can jump on the Moogle and
Yep.
he like smacks down with a Moogle, but then his gauge immediately fills back up, so you can just keep doing it as long as you're hitting enemies, and that
Sure.
was pretty cool. So yeah, I use him. I never use him for a boss fight though, except for obviously in the last boss fight when you have to use him. But other than that, I would never use him for a boss fight. He's more of just like, oh, I'm just messing around, fighting enemies. Maybe I'll go to the Coliseum and use him a little bit. Yuffie, wasn't a big fan of Yuffie. I didn't really
Oh,
like her in
man.
Integrate either.
Ugh.
I can't get into
Did
like
you? Sorry.
no, go on.
Did you just not really learn how her combat works and how it flows with the elemental jutsus and the juggling? Because
No,
like once
I
you learn
figured
it,
it
it's
out.
so
Yeah,
effective.
I figured it out with the juggling. It doesn't fit the way I like to play games, like my style of game. I do think it's cool how you can switch the elemental though on the jujitsu though, and I did use it like the part where you have to, which I think it's chapter 6 when you're like mandatory, maybe it's chapter 7 where you have to take over as her, and you have
Yeah.
to use her. That I kind of started learning a little bit more with her, and I kind of was like, all right, I could see myself using her, but I preferred every other character to her. And honestly, her and Aerith were my 2 least used characters. Red 13 was awesome.
That's funny.
We used
Oh,
to
Red
play as
13
Red.
was
We used
Two
to
in
play
so
as
mine.
good.
Red. Oh my gosh, going into vengeance mode with him, oh,
Yeah, Red 13 was
takes
awesome.
down enemies.
Great.
But yeah, so
I
I would say Barrett, Cloud, and Tifa.
I
Yeah,
actually
go ahead.
I forget that Kate Sith is a character because I never used him unless it was a mandatory thing. But I do have to say I enjoyed how many times in this game it would force you to have like a certain party because it made you use everyone. Like you didn't just get it's like I don't know, catching a Pokemon and throwing them straight into the computer and never touching it again. Like it's not that you like literally have to use each character at a certain point, and I really enjoyed that. But it was nice that for most of the game you're able to set your own party and do that. I actually used Aerith for a long time, and then until I started using just the cheat code of the Barrett stagger because I don't know, Aerith was always so weak to me, and I just used her as a healer. So I was like, yeah, it seemed kind of like a waste of a party member for me. So after a while, I stopped using her.
Yeah, I do want to give Tifa some love here because I was hating on Tifa a little bit, and I like Tifa. I just like Aerith more. But in regards to the combat, I did enjoy Tifa's combat, especially towards the later game when I got a little bit better with her. She was, as Sean said, she was really good at filling up that stagger gauge. Like at the very end when you're fighting Sephiroth, there's like this one hard mode where he's got like the 2 wings and the core. And like that was a pain in the ass, first of all. But it was really hard to damage that core because it was so resistive. But I actually found the cheat code for that for me was Tifa. I just got right in the core's face. I destroyed one of the wings. I didn't even destroy the second wing because for some reason it kept dodging it was dodging like my frost spells because it was moving, which was annoying. But I just got in the core's face with Tifa, and I was just doing like her uppercut combo, doing the uppercut, and then the dive kick. Like you just kind of chain it together. She's up in the air with the uppercut, and then you instantly do the dive kick to come down on him, and just keep repeating that over and over. And it was just chunking his health and the stagger bar. And that's how I ended up beating the core. Like she was really good with that combo and her damage. So shout out to Tifa for that.
That dive kick might be my most used ability in the game. I use that so much with her, and she fills the ATB meter so quickly.
Mhm.
It just goes so fast with her. So I use that so much. I would even if I'm not playing her, I would just stop, go into the the little active combat menu. I would use it so much. I had the um the auto combo thing for her equipped for materia, so
Mhm.
she would use it all the time. I like her dive kick too. Her dive, like the one where it's like the dive kick goes sideways. I really like that too.
Yeah,
Yeah, just it was overall. All the characters are great to play as it.
they
At
really
some
are.
point, yeah,
Mhm.
they all offer like value.
Now, Sean, you mentioned that you're going to be playing it on hard because I assume you're going for that platinum,
Yeah,
which I'm not because I'm scared and intimidated. It's too much. So with hard, as I understand it, you can't use items in combat. Can you use them
correct.
outside of combat?
You can use them outside, but you can't use them
Okay.
in combat. Yeah,
And you also don't refill your MP when you rest, which is
correct.
crazy.
Except unless you rest at an inn.
Okay.
Yeah.
So a piece of advice that I'm going to give you, Sean, because hard is going to be really hard, something that might help you, you might want to just give this a try. Put Aerith on the max magical damage, like I said. Give her that synergy materia and the comet materia. And anytime you fill up and use a dive kick, every time you dive kick with Tifa, Aerith is going to cast Comet, and it's not going to use any MP. And it's just going to do crazy damage. It's going to be pretty awesome. That might help you with some of the hard boss fights. Give that a shot if you want. I really enjoyed that.
All right, yeah,
Um,
I'll probably do that. I'm in chapter 2 now. Just have you guys why don't we segue into side quests? Talk about
Let's
some of the
do it.
side quests.
Let's do it.
Hell yeah.
Take it
So
away, Sean.
I've done every side quest that I could do already. So like I don't have to do any in my hard mode playthrough because I'm not doing these in hard mode because I just want to play the regular game 'cause it's already gonna be challenging enough. Um, did you guys have any like? Did you? I really enjoyed all the different Chocobo side quests that they had, and I'm not the biggest Chocobo guy. Like I love Final Fantasy, but that's one of the things I'm not a big fan of is Chocobos. But I really liked how each region had like their distinct, um, Chocobo quest, and specifically, they make alludes to Chocobo Sam from Remake, and you learn a little bit more about him, um, and like his backstory and how he kind of was more of like, I'm like I got to do what I got to do for myself. What do you guys think?
Yeah, let's make this. I'm going to let you go in just 1 second, Hodge. Let's make this the side quest and the side content in general discussion. Hodge, go ahead.
The Chocobo stuff, yeah, I didn't. There wasn't a side mission that I didn't like. The scanning the rock where it was just hit the same button 3 times, or the same button 3 times. Yeah, that one was kind of like, just tell me that I'm here and it's done. I don't need to hit
Like
triangle 3 times.
Just hold down the button. Like they should just made it hold down the button.
Yeah, that was kind of dumb, but like the majority of it I didn't hate. The only side missions I didn't like were the 3D brawler one, because I was just not good at it when you had to fight the super party guy or whatever, the Shinra middle manager.
Oh, Shinra middle manager.
Yeah, the middle manager guy. He was so freaking hard to fight. I hate Dio wasn't that bad, but because he had 6 moves instead of Dio's 4, so you had to just remember 2 more things that you had to dodge or whatever, and I hated it. But and then the chicken one, but I like how the chicken one ended, where it's like you're gonna have to guide a chicken for like a mile, and then instead an enemy shows up, you fight, you're like, oh thank God, I don't have to do this stupid fucking chicken thing anymore.
Yeah,
But
it runs on its own. It's like, oh, it knows how to get home.
And then I loved mostly just because of the music, the 2 dog missions where it's like bow wow wow bow wow wow, that music that was playing. It was so stupid. I loved it. But or the frog mission at Junon, that was hilarious.
Oh my gosh.
Having to do like the Fall Guys, like stay on the platform, don't get knocked off thing. That was always fun.
I was thinking Frogger.
Frogger, yeah, because that's like literally a thing in I'm sure it's been in other games, but it's like in Fall Guys where there's 2 things that are constantly spinning. You have to either jump or duck under them. But yeah, those are really fun. But yeah, the side missions, I love the open world part of it. Like I've always been a collectathon person. As a kid who grew up loving Spyro, where it's like find every gem. Like that's basically the game at the end. I always loved that open world. Even though it's like the Ubisoft, like find a place to stand and then it opens up wherever it shows you where everything is. Like that's kind of all right, that's Ubisoft. But I loved doing all the side missions and side quests, and especially the side missions where it would improve your relationship with a character, because by the end of the game I had full on every single person. Like I always did the optional. I liked how to increase Yuffie's, you had to be sarcastic with her and she believed it. Like just stupid things like that, where I think it's at the beach, she's like, oh, I look great, don't I? And he goes, yeah, sure. She goes, I knew it. And she like goes away and she gets happier. Like it's like that kind of stuff. Yeah, I always loved it. I did not try to get the S on every piano thing. That was difficult. I could not do it, even though I'm a musically inclined person. I'm just sitting there like trying to do the joysticks, like, crap, which way does this go? Like kind of thing. But yeah, I loved all the side content other than those 2 missions. But yeah, it was so much. I mean, obviously we'll get to Queen's Blood. We can make that its own freaking thing. But yeah, I loved it all.
Okay. For me, yeah, for the side content, I didn't do all of it. I didn't 100% this game. I'm not going for the platinum. Like when we started out in the grasslands, I did almost like 100% in the grasslands, and I was enjoying it. But as I got further into the game, this is a long game. I started feeling like it felt a little bit bloated for me personally. I didn't enjoy the open world as much as some other people, as much as Hodge. Like I felt like the open world just felt like filler. Like a lot of the missions were very same-ish. It wasn't very unique. Like there was literally 2 missions where you literally just go up and scan a rock. 2 different ones. There was the one with the materia, like with the boss materia or whatever. You scan the rock and then you have to do the sequence. And then there's the other one where you scan the rock and then you just have to hit triangle 3 times. It's like the exact same thing with just a different quick time event. And then the towers were stupid as hell. Like there was no point to it. There wasn't even a difficulty. It wasn't like in Far Cry. Like in Far Cry, there's like a climbing puzzle a lot of the time. Like you have to figure out how to climb up the towers. There's a little bit different path and different ways that you get up there sometimes. This was just, for the most part, this was pretty much just straightforward. Climb up the tower and hit triangle. And that was it. So I thought this felt really fillerish. And I actually feel like, from my perspective, the game would have been a little bit better if the open world was a little bit smaller with less content in it, because I think that would allow people to have more time to do all of the side stories, the side quests, without feeling like they're there for 100+ hours. Like if the game was just a little bit more compacted, I think people would have done more of the side quests because they wouldn't feel so strapped for time. And the main story was epic, as we know. I think it would have been an overall tighter and better product if there was just less of the Ubisoft open world and just more time, like I said, more time to focus on the main story and the side missions, and not so much run around a giant mountainous map and interact with quick time events. You know what I mean? But that's just my opinion. I thought that brought it down a little bit, but overall, fantastic. Sean, what
Well,
do you think?
that's the beauty of like open world games. Though, is like you don't have to do everything. That's the beauty part of it. Um, Particularly another side quest I just want to shout out is the Seaside Inside quest with Johnny, and he all those clones, and you're running
Mm.
around trying to help out Johnny get that Seaside in. One thing that I still have not done though is you know how you can upgrade the Seaside Inn with the stars by giving them all the different. I have not gotten all of them yet. I will be doing that,
Oh
but
my
that is
gosh.
probably going to take a while
Oh yeah.
because you have to grind in Gold Saucer for a lot of those points to unlock the little trophies and the little statues and all that. So that's going to take me a while, but speaking of some side content, Gold Saucer, phenomenal. Some of those,
Yep.
I know Hodge, you're not a big fan of the 3D brawler. I actually really liked it. It grew on me. At first, I was so thrown off when you get just thrown into the fight with Dio. I'm like, what's going on right now?
Yeah.
I actually was about to lose, and I hit restart checkpoint. And I ended up the last checkpoint I had was like an hour or two behind it, and I was so upset with myself. I'm like, oh my gosh. So I got back up there. I did beat him though, but it did grow on me. It grew on me. I like the Queen's Blood in Gold Saucer, how it's like gives you scenarios, and it's like, oh, you have to do this, and they give you like cards, and it's like you have to figure out how to do this. I
Is it
really like
this?
that.
Was it the same? Because they also had that at Costa del Sol down on the
Yeah.
beach. You could do that same thing. Were they the same ones, or was it
No,
two
they're
different?
different. They're
Okay.
different. Yeah, they
Okay.
were different. I like that. Chocobo racing, it was all right. Like I said, I'm not the biggest Chocobo guy.
Yeah.
Um,
Once you got in first, you were in first. It really wasn't that challenging.
did
It
you do the
wasn't.
Gold Cup? Did you do the Gold Cup?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For the gold cup, I got there. I'm in chapter 12. I'm in the gold saucer. I was like, I'm gonna get gold in the Chocobo League. I'm like, that's what I'm gonna do. So I go up there, and you have to do so many races, and they weren't hard at all. I got first place in all of them. I got first place in like 5 races straight, so I was in like silver or something. And I was just like, I'm bored. I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to do another 10 races to get gold. So I just left. I was like, this is good enough for me. Because it wasn't hard at all, but it was decent. It was pretty fun. For like a short diversion, I would say.
Mhm. Speaking of Costa del Sol too, the shooting game, like with
Mm.
the gun, with it's like basically target practice. I found that pretty fun. It was like a
I
nice
wasn't
little
very
change of
good
pace.
at it.
I wasn't good at first, and then I kept playing it, and I'm like, all right, I'm good. And then I didn't realize for the first few times you could turn your
The
like
sensitivity.
the sensitivity up. I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
And once I did that, I'm like, oh my god, this makes it a lot easier.
Yeah.
Yeah, you had your little Rocket League clone game with Red 13
That one was
and the
fun.
soccer ball. Yeah,
That was
that was
cool.
pretty fun. I enjoyed that. Yeah, I think some of the mini games are really good. Did you guys like the sit up challenge?
The sit up challenge was cool. Yeah.
It confused me because I thought you were supposed to go at the same pace. I didn't realize you could increase it. So I kept losing. I'm like, what does go? And then I realized you have to just hit that tempo, but it just gets faster and faster.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, now I whooped her ass. But yeah.
I thought that was pretty good. One thing that I really liked, and I was upset that there wasn't more of it in this game, was what's that mini
Fort
game called?
Condor?
Fort Condor.
Yep.
Like when when you were just thrown into that game of Fort Condor, you kind of get like shrunk into. You're like these little PS2 style renders of the characters, and you're playing Fort Condor. That was a
Mhm.
lot of fun. In my opinion, Fort Condor was way better than Queen's Blood, and I wish that there was more option to play Fort Condor, because like there wasn't even Fort Condor in the Golden Saucer. Like when you go to that area where you have like all the different games, there's like 3 or 4 different games, but there was no Fort Condor. Like
I'm
what's
actually
up with
surprised
that?
at that too. Yeah, yeah. Well, because
Yeah, I was.
in Intergrade, it's like a game everyone plays. It's like a
Yeah,
Queen's Blood
I
in that
loved it.
game. So I would
Yeah.
assume it'd be that kind of popular thing too. Yeah.
And I thought it was even better in this version. I don't know. I had more fun in this game than I did in Intergrade.
Mhm.
Yeah,
But
I think I think it was easier in this game for
mhm,
Fort Condor,
it
but
was.
that might be because there wasn't as many to choose from. Like I know in Integrate, it took me that was the last thing I did in Integrate was getting all the Fort Condor, but I think because there were so many of them, it was just more difficult. But yeah, I did like Fort Condor, and I'm not like I was not the big Fort Condor guy like ever. Like I didn't like it that much, and like I said, I wasn't a huge fan of an Integrate, but this was pretty cool. I love what they look like, the sprites. Like I love
Yeah.
that.
Me too.
I would love if they could remake, just like not like remake, but like re-release the original game. Like just keep the original game the way it is in that art style. I think that'd be so cool.
It'd be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do we want? Is there anything else we want to talk about on side quests or open world before we switch to Queen's Blood? I think. One thing I'll say that was kind of annoying is when you were in, I think Cosmo Canyon, and you're trying to get the chocobo or whatever, or you had
Oh
to
my
do
god.
those. You had to do those floating ring things. Not getting the chocobo itself, that wasn't too bad, I don't think. But those stupid races or whatever, where you had to get so many points going through the rings, those
Yeah.
were a pain in the ass. And there was one that I had to restart like 12 times, and I was
Was it
getting very
was it
angry.
it was the second one. It had to have been
Yeah,
the second one.
I
The
think it
second
was
one
the second one.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, when I was at that point, I remember I posted in Discord, I go, "This is probably my only huge gripe with this game is the gliding/flying mechanic with the chocobo is
Sucks.
horrendous. It is so bad."
Once
Yeah.
you figure it out, it's not that bad. It's just because it's the same gliding technique as in the Arkham games, where you have to dive and give yourself the momentum to go back up. And
That is
I didn't know.
true, yeah.
I didn't know that at first because I was like, wait, do I go down or do I go? I thought it was like a choice of which way you go, but then I found out no, you have to dive to get back up to those ones up there. And so I aced them all like after once I figured that part out. But I can understand. There was one, I think it was that second one. That is the one I did have to restart the most. But eventually, I was just like, oh, this isn't that bad.
I spent a
Okay.
solid 30 minutes on that second one. I'm like, they
Yeah.
had like the 500s, like it's going down and up, and then there's like 100s over there. I'm like, do I just skip this section, or am I supposed to go over there so I can hit the fan? 'Cause I kept missing the fan after like the first
Yeah.
section. I would miss
Yep.
the fan, and I'm like, do I just skip this section and go right to the fan?
Yeah, I was so pissed. I was like, "Man, f this thing, man. This is annoying." I finally beat it, though. I was happy when I was
Oh,
done with it.
I was so
Um,
pumped when I cleared it. I was
there
jumping.
are sorry. There actually are a couple more things I want to talk about before we get to Queen's Blood for the
Okay.
open world. Let's talk about the Proto Relic. I didn't get it. I did a lot of the Proto Relic missions, but I didn't do all of them. Did any of you guys fully complete the Proto Relic? And
Yeah.
what do you actually get? Like, what's the reward and how cool is it?
You get Gilgamesh as a summon. The swordsman, you get him as a summon. Yeah, it's hard though because the final stage you go to like this little hidden island and you have to fight 2 summons at once, and one of them is Odin and Alexander, and that one was so hard. Even on easy mode, that one was so hard. I had to summon Odin to fight Odin. Yeah,
Yeah, that
that was tough.
Yeah,
I
that
th
one was really I was playing on normal mode. I died there more than any other time in the game. Like, I didn't really
Yeah.
die a lot in the game, like, going through it, and I played on normal the whole time, but there, I probably died maybe 6 or 7 times. I was like, "Ugh," I kept having to do
Yeah.
it. Almost said, "You know what? I'll just put this off for my hard mode playthrough and come back." Glad I didn't. Really glad I didn't.
Oh
Um,
Yeah.
god.
did you have a particular Hodge and Midnight? Did you guys have a particular proto? I don't know how many you did Midnight, but particular like region where the proto relic was like your favorite like group of missions. I
The
really like
Fort
the
Condor
Grassland
one.
one. I like
I
the
like
Grassland one.
the Fort Condor one was my favorite.
Yeah, the Fort Condor one was awesome, which actually I didn't even do all of them, which I should have. Even though I loved the Fort Condor, I didn't do all of those missions because some of them were like a pain in the ass for me to try to even figure out how to get to it. Like you had to
Oh,
navigate the
yeah.
map in a specific way. And I was at a point where I was like, man, I gotta like I got to beat this game because I got to get ready for the spoiler cast. I don't have time to be doing all the side stuff. I was up against the clock, I felt like. So I didn't do all of them. I will say that some of the quests were memorable. Like the very first one in the grasslands where you're dealing with
I love it.
those
Yeah.
idiot you're dealing with those idiot bandits and you're chasing
Oh,
them down.
yeah.
That was it was very funny.
Yeah. Those guys are
Yeah.
goofy.
Here's the plan. You're the distraction. I get out of here. And he like would make them like, yeah, he just like run away. It's like, dude, what are you doing? And then somehow they would survive though, and like they'd be back with him, like nothing happened.
Oh,
Those
yeah.
dudes were funny. They're like playing dead and stuff. Like, ah.
Yeah. At first, I thought those were going to be all the proto relic missions for all of them. So like when I got to Junon, I'm like, oh, they're not here. I'm like, okay, so it's going to be different for all of them. Okay.
Mhm.
'Cause,
Yeah.
But that was a nice throwback to Remake. I did like them in Remake.
Yeah, that was cool. That was funny because you met those guys in Remake in like the little train
You
subway
met them, and
area
they
or whatever.
just would keep appearing, and you fought them in the Coliseum.
Those dudes are funny.
They think they're so tough. They're like, oh yeah, we're the best.
How about this? Here's another side content that I really enjoyed. I bet you guys probably did too. Was the Pirate King quest where you had to sail the seas? And did you guys do that? You sailed the sea.
Yeah.
You had to go to the 4 locations on the map. You fight a boss at each one. You get the little piece or whatever, and at the end, you end up getting like a compass, a compass that shows you where those crafting materials are in the sea.
What do you craft with those? I just picked them up, but I never used them on anything.
It's an item for transmuting or whatever, like high end gear. But I never did. I never did it either. I guess I didn't unlock those gears somehow.
I haven't transmuted everything. I didn't really transmute that much so far. Obviously, I have a ton of material. I'm just gonna eventually do it. Another side thing that well, I was gonna comment on that was that eerily is similar to Kingdom Hearts 3 in Pirates of the Caribbean world when you're running around the boat. That's what I thought of the whole time, and I thought of Wind Waker the entire time with a map.
There you go.
All right.
Yeah.
I need to replay Kingdom Hearts 3 soon.
So good. So good.
Yeah.
Are we satisfied with side content other than Queen's Blood?
Yeah.
Shall we talk about Queen's Blood now?
Yes, sir.
All right. I didn't like it. So let me pass it to one of you guys to talk about what you liked about Queen's Blood. Who wants to take it first?
You go, Sean.
Fight for it.
Oh, I adored Queen's Blood, and I'm not a card game guy. I actually just started playing the Dragon Ball card game online. Shout out to the online client. Spent too much money on that already, but I never thought I would like this. And like I said, I want a standalone Queen's Blood game. I would love this. I just found it so addicting. Like I loved in Chapter 5 the tournament. Like absolutely love that. Like I was like, okay, let's go. Didn't lose one game in the tournament, but if you did lose, like when you were playing someone, it was so easy if you knew you were gonna lose to just pause it and restart.
Just hit restart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's so many like all the abilities all the different cards have. You can form your deck in so many different ways. I thought it was really cool talking about Queen's Blood, going back to Gold Saucer, and one of the challenges, they flip you to the other side. So you're playing from the other side perspective. Like how you always start on the left, but this time you start on the right. And I was like, what? Like it totally, and at first I didn't realize it. So I'm like, oh, I'll be fine. I went in there. I'm like, well, none of my cards really work now.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of screwed. But I liked all the different cards, shout out to just the standard soldier card that like would it has like the 4. It's like a plus sign.
Yeah.
I always have 2 of those in my deck. Yeah, some of the cards are just really good. Some of them are really cool. Like shout out to the Cactar where it gives you the +3 and like in the corner down there. That was always in my deck. When I got the Dio card, I used Dio a lot. I loved it.
I always used I can't remember what it's called, like the serpent that every time someone died, it gained a power. So I put that guy in there. He was always just chilling in the back. So every time someone died, he powered up. And I think I would also have the Chocobo because if another card powered up, that would power up also. So every time someone died, he powered up, and then my Chocobo powered up. And yeah, it was so cool just finding the strategy of just like having the person you put down to either add 1 or 2, pawns to the next things to put stuff down, and then someone to power up another guy you have on your team. It was such a fun, like, because when I first started it, I was like, God, I hate this. Why do I have to do this? But then once you kind of get the strategy down, you're like, oh, this is actually really, because it's like it's chess but with the card kind of thing, and I thought it was a whole lot of fun. I'd always have like the I think it's a baby chocobo where if you win that thing, you gain 3 points also
Yep.
like that. And
Yeah,
I
those are
always
great.
had stuff like that in my thing, or the one, it would be just like one that just like, I think it's like the flame troop or something that kills someone that's like 2 spots over. And so that would be great when you had the serpent out and the chocobo. Like, it was just so fun strategizing how to like make your team as powerful as possible. And yeah, I loved Queen's Blood in the end. Every time it would pop up on the map, I'm like, yes, a couple more matches.
The first thing I would always do when I got to a region, like playing Queen's Blood, first thing I'm
Mhm.
doing, no matter what. I
Yeah.
also like the cards that you can play over your older cards. So,
Yeah.
like if they had, so it looks like the enemy has these 3 rows spots already because you know 5 per row. You have
Mm.
two down, and they already have 3 left. You can just play your card right over it and take one of them right back. I
Yeah.
really like those cards too. Overall, I liked it. And I like the little story behind it, the Queen's Blood story.
Oh yeah, it was so cool. Like every time you beat
Eerie.
basically like a boss, you'd see the
Yeah,
guy and you're like, "What's going on?" Like
yeah.
this dude's being haunted by the cards and stuff. And then well, I guess I was gonna say spoiler. We're in a spoiler cast, so it's obvious. At the end, when you actually have to play the ghost of the guy, and it
Mhm.
was that was at the haunted hotel at the Gold
Yeah.
Saucer. That was so much fun.
I
It did.
was hoping I was hoping that he was a little bit more difficult, a little bit more challenging. I beat him
Yeah,
on
I
my
beat
first
him. I
try.
didn't even have to restart. I just beat him.
No.
Yeah, it
And I'm like,
was.
"All right."
Yeah. It
I think
did get to the point where I wasn't dying anymore though, which was nice. I was just starting to whoop people. It felt great.
Okay. So that was Queen's Blood. Are we satisfied with that? Like I said, I didn't enjoy it. I think for me, what it was is that I was just feeling like the game was too big, and I didn't have enough time to experience everything. So I was like, I just want to get to the story because there was just too much to do. I spent 67 hours to beat the game, and I know people have spent a lot more time than that. Than me,
I
but
was
yeah,
72,
I
I
didn't.
think.
I did some of the Queen's Blood. I did do the
96.
tournament. Obviously, I won the tournament. That was fun. I did do some of the side ones where you're in a town and you beat the people in the town, and it was okay, but I never really got too into it, and I didn't feel like doing 100% of it personally. But
yeah. One last thing I wanna say about Queen's Blood is some of the opponents are hilarious too when you're talking to them. Like in the Dust Bowl, there's one of the guys in the bar, and he's trying to be like act all tough, and he's like, "No, I gotta be calm. I gotta be calm. You gotta be like, you just walked up to me and asked me if I wanted to play Queen's Blood. That's how I have to act." One of the guys in the Dust Bowl. I get to play a dog. That was pretty
Yeah,
cool.
the
And then
dog.
they make reference to what was the other animal? It was a chocobo. They make reference to, "Oh yeah, I heard this is chocobo that plays too. My dog's gonna beat him."
Yeah, and then you play the chocobo later.
Yeah.
that was funny in the tournament when Red shows up, like acting like he's a
Oh my
human in
god.
armor and stuff. That was hilarious.
It reminded me of live action Scooby Doo when Scooby Doo's on the plane, or anytime he dresses the girl. I know Hodge will remember. I
Oh
don't know if
yeah, I love
Midnight's
that
ever seen
movie.
it. Yeah.
I love
All
those
right.
movies. I love both of them actually. But the one thing before we move on, it's kind not really Queen's Blood related itself, but I loved the game obviously, but the parts where the game felt bloated to me wasn't the open world stuff. I think I said this on a different episode. It was actually where like you were forced to do random shit in the story. Like you had to do the Coast del Sol, like find your swimsuit kind of thing. You had to do the Queen's Blood tournament, which I loved. Obviously, I love playing Queen's Blood, but it felt so weird that this game is just kind of, I mean, it's a JRPG, so they do that all the time where they just add random story elements. But that's the part where I felt the blow, where it's like, I don't need to do that. I just want to get to where we're going and fight the next guy kind of thing. But I mean, I loved it all, but that's actually where I felt the bloat, not the side stuff.
Yeah. Okay. All right, so we've talked about the combat, we've talked about the side stuff and the stories in Queen's Blood. Let's go ahead and bring it back to the actual story of the game. We talked in depth about the ending, but we didn't go into a lot of depth about the actual main story leading up to the ending. So I want to take this time to just shout out any special moments in the story that we really enjoyed or that captivated us or were emotional. I'll go ahead and I guess I'll start here because I feel like I haven't been talking as much during the Queen's Blood and everything. So there were a couple big moments during the story that really resonated with me. First of all, there was the Barrett part where Barrett
Oh my god.
ends up fighting his friend Dine. And that fight was very difficult, by the way. That was actually, I was playing on normal the whole time, but I kicked it down to easy for that fight because with that one-on-one Barrett versus Dine, he was kicking my ass. Like, he was destroying me. So I ended up having to go down to easy, but then I went back up to normal after that for most of the game. But that was very emotional. Unfortunately, you had to defeat your friend and he dies. And you find out that he's the father of Marlene, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was very emotional. The Kate Sith thing where he betrays you in the gold saucer, like he takes off. I'm like, this son of a bitch, I loved you. But then he redeems himself in the end, though. We find out that his motives were pure. The reason why he did that was because he thought that the people who took the relic to the temple would probably die, and he didn't want you guys to die. So that's why he did it. And he shows up and kind of saves the day there too. When the whole temple's collapsing, like he holds up the thing. So I thought that was very cool and very powerful. So that's just a couple moments. I'll probably have more later, but let me pass it to you, Hodge. What were some of the key moments and emotional bits and things you want to talk about from the story?
I am not a man. Like, I'm not like I'm a manly man. I never cry, but like, I'm not a dude who tears up very often, but that Barrett part that hit me so hard. Like, cause I never really knew that about Marley. I mean, it makes sense. He's black, his daughter's white, so it makes sense, or half white. But like finding out that he took like that Barrett knows he screwed over his town. Like, he thought he was going to help it, but he ended up just destroying the town. And when he thought Dine was dead, he just like put it on himself. Like, I need to take care of his daughter. Like, I can't just leave her here. And so he takes care of Marlene. He loses his wife, which in the trial part where he loses his wife again, you're just torn apart. And that the whole Barrett part, like I said, everyone gets their thing. Like, you find out Vincent's kind of thing. Kate Sith's part's great, where everyone he's like, I knew this would happen, but it still hurts just as bad, or whatever he says. And finding out Tifa kind of going through the whale, kind of seeing her past and all that. Like, everyone has an amazing story in this, but Barrett's just, that one was so heart-wrenching and good that I was just, oh man, I lost it after that. I even messaged everyone. I'm like, just everyone know, chapter 8, you're gonna cry, like, kind of thing. And that's what hit me the hardest. But obviously the whole story overall, it's a great story. I love it. I'm still confused about the whole multiverse part of it, but it'll wrap up in the next game. But for now, I'm confused as hell about what's going on. But yeah, just and then funny finding out, I don't think this was ever in the originals, where you find out Red 13's kind of a kid when he gets back to Cosmo Canyon and his voice changes. You're like, wait, what? Like, and he's like, I basically had to act like I'm older than I am, or else he wouldn't have respected me, kind of thing.
Well,
and
what's it? Sorry,
what's up?
I didn't play the original. Are they voiced in the original, or are you just reading text?
It's just text boxes.
Okay.
So that's why I don't ever remember them saying something of like, oh, your attitude's changed, kind of thing. Like, that never happens when you go to Cosmo Canyon. So, I thought that was kind of goofy. The trial bit with him, I wasn't as huge on. It just kind of felt like, hey, he has a wall climbing commit mechanic. How do we utilize it? Like, that kind of thing to me. But yeah, it all goes back to the Barrett story was by far my favorite part of this game, and that's what sticks out to me the most.
Were there any other moments that were really resonant or emotional with you besides that?
I really liked, actually, in the Cosmic Canyon, when it's Aerith giving her speech and it cuts over to Cloud, and it's like, either smile at her, tell her to wrap it up, or like nod, or whatever it was. I think I just did a smile, which actually ended up being funny because he does like this really awkward like he doesn't know how to smile, kind of thing. And but Aerith is so sweet that she knows he's really trying to encourage her. And I thought that moment was really sweet too. But yeah, there's a lot of moments in this game that are, and then this isn't really, well, if we're gonna talk about characters later, I'll bring it up later. But because there's a side character of finding Cicely in this game was really cool. But
no, go ahead and talk about it now.
All right, so she's a character from Crisis Core, which, since you haven't played it, you probably didn't know who Cicely was when you got to Gongaga. And I won't spoil like who she is or what, because it's cool that in the game she, like, every time, like, who are you? She's like, it's not important, kind of thing. So it was really cool seeing Cicely back. It sucks that she was only kind of relegated to that moment. Like it was kind of fan servicey of like, look who it is, you remember her. But I did enjoy the whole thing with her and Aerith, obviously talking to the parents. I liked the story part of Gungaga, but I didn't like the open world in Gungaga. The finding, like, it's like you have to go up to this place, you got to find which mushroom to bounce off of. I'm like, I don't want to find a mushroom to bounce off. But yeah, but I liked obviously the story of when you get into the thing and Tifa, or not Tifa. Well, yeah, Tifa gets stabbed by Cloud because he's losing his freaking mind again, and she goes down into discovers kind of her past when she sees the whispers and stuff like that. Yeah, I'm going on, but yeah, it's definitely the Barrett part sticks out to me. But there's so many obviously awesome moments in this story that, well, I was gonna say we could talk about it forever, but that's what we're doing right now. So
she got stabbed. I don't remember that. I know she got pushed. She got pushed in the water.
Well, yeah, he swiped at her. He stabbed her in the past, but he swiped at her.
She fell into the water.
Or was it Sephiroth that stabbed her?
Sephiroth stabbed her.
Sephiroth stabbed her. I couldn't remember if he was losing his mind then or not, but yeah,
Okay.
It was Sephiroth.
All right, you confused me there. I'm like, I don't remember a stab, but all right, Sean.
He
you've been waiting. You've been waiting your turn here. What are some emotional moments and memories for you from the story?
Yeah, I definitely agree with you guys on the Barrett story. That's like a heart-wrenching story. I mean, just to like go back and just see the emotions on his face and see him, and then again relive it basically again in the trial with his wife, and like being separated, seeing her dead. That was awful. Seeing his arm just cut off again, and like before he has the cannon, and then like to feel like, I know like a lot of people who like lose a limb, that they like oftentimes they'll say like, I wake up every day like and have to remember I don't have a limb because I dream, like in my dreams I do. And when he wakes up in the trial and he has both his arms and he's like, is this free? And he can feel them. Like that is so powerful, because then the next second he doesn't have it again. That was powerful. Fighting your basically Marlene's father, your best friend, the one that you feel responsible for basically screwing over, and you feel responsible for screwing over the whole town.
Yeah.
That was just heavy stuff. I really, in chapter 13, those trials, basically all the characters basically reliving like pretty much like the worst moment of their lives.
Mm-hmm.
I know what you're saying about Red 13, which is like kind of running up the wall, but I like the story aspect. It basically shows you like, like how he basically got captured by Hojo, and like he tattoos the 13 on him. That's how he gets his like Red 13. I'm just gonna call you Red 13.
Mm-hmm.
You're a red dog.
Yeah.
That was pretty powerful. Just have Yuffie having to relive basically the end of Intergrade and just like see like the trauma on her face. And a lot of the characters I feel like a lot of the characters blame themselves for a lot of things that have happened, even if it's not their fault. Like Tifa feels somewhat responsible for like kind of almost like surviving the Nibelheim like fire, because her father died. That part where you follow her father into the reactor and you see him dead lying there. Ugh, that was awful. A lot of strong, sad moments. Just like a lot of meaningful. Like I said, like the ending like really hit me really hard. Even in chapter 14, when you Cloud and Aerith in the alternate universe kind of wake up, and like Aerith kind of like knows what's going on and Cloud has no idea, and like playing the original, you kind of like know like, oh gosh, like Cloud, you have no idea what you're in for.
Yeah, it's so heartbreaking because she's like, I just want to live in this moment, because in this, like obviously in the original game, you have no idea when it's gonna happen, that it's gonna happen, but kind of replaying it, most people have played the original, so they're like, we know it's gonna happen, so they kind of hint at it for you that she knows it's happening also, and you're like, oh god, she just wants to live in this moment for as long as she can before she knows the inevitable is gonna happen, and it's heartbreaking.
The Dayton gold saucer was really cool too.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah, I had Aerith. It was Cloud and Aerith for me. Watching the movie, I actually thought was really cool. Getting the S rank on that, like, that when you're in there and like the characters are like Barrett's there and Red 13, and you're like fighting them, but it's like a quick time. You're pressing the buttons. I got an S rank my first time. I was pretty happy about that. But then going on the Ferris wheel, like we said, just like walking around, it adds to the depth of the characters. Another really cool moment for me is just, anytime you woke up, like Cloud would go to bed and then all of a sudden you wake up and you're Zack and you're in Sector 5. First time that happens after the initial time when you play through him, but the first time you go back to him, I was like, what's going on? Like, I had no idea what was going on. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, they're like they had the X's on Barrett. Like that I was totally lost at first, but then as you go, you kind of fill in the gaps and stuff. That was really cool. Um, like I love Zach. I think Zach's an awesome character. So like I said, anytime
Mhm.
you're with Zach, it's pretty cool. And in Gongaga, when you meet Zach's parents, and you can really see like the loss on Aerith's face when she asked Cloud, like, "Do you remember Zach?" And he's like, "No, I don't. Like, who's Zach?" Like you can
Yeah.
see the disappointment in her face. She's like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think. Sorry,
Yeah, go on.
cut
No,
you
no,
off.
go on. I just
Did you want to keep going?
there's just so much to talk about. So many emotional moments, but there's also like the lighthearted moments too. Like when you're at Costa del Sol and you're doing the Seaside Inn stuff, and you're having the beach party, and then Hojo shows up out of nowhere, and he's in a lab coat, and everyone else is in bathing suits, and you're fighting with like a stick.
Yeah.
I fucking hate Hojo, dude. I was hoping so much that we would get to kill that piece of shit, but we didn't get to. I'm assuming and hoping that in part 3 we'll get to finally kill that dude because I hate him so much. Um,
You would
but
hate him even more if you played First Soldier.
that's one thing I wanted to mention, that I feel like me not playing the original and not playing Crisis Core really did me a disservice because I don't really know like anything about Zach. So like anytime like he's showing up and we're like playing as him, I'm just like I don't know if I should care or why I should care. And it's hitting you guys, I'm sure, way differently because you have that connection to him. So I am this year. I'm gonna play both of them. I don't know when. I'm gonna get to them soon. I'm gonna play the original Final Fantasy VII and Crisis Core because I feel like I'm missing out a bit there.
Yeah, Crisis Core definitely gets you to love Zach a lot more. Because I actually didn't play it until this year. I knew who Zach was obviously from the original, but I didn't play Crisis Core until, or was it last year? I don't know. We're in the beginning of the year, so I forgot when it was.
Last year.
Yeah, within the last year I played it. but yeah, Zach is an awesome character that you learn to love. Like I said, in Crisis Core, I don't really believe that they're best friends because it seemed kind of rushed that all of a sudden they're like buddy. It's like they don't barely know each other. But yeah, Zach is an awesome character who, yeah, once you play
Okay.
Crisis Core, you'll definitely love him a lot more.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sean, did you have something you wanted to say?
I just, just there's so many moments in this game, and I really, I saw some people complaining that like it's like, oh well, they're in such dire consequences. How can they have these lighthearted moments? I'm like, it's anything in like real life. I mean, when you're going through stuff, you're gonna have like these moments where it's like, oh,
You have to.
let's take a break from
Yeah.
reality that the world's falling apart around us, or we're following these hooded figures because we know if we don't stop Sephiroth, the world's gonna end. Like, obviously, there's
Mhm.
gonna be lighthearted moments.
There
Um,
has to be. Humans can't handle pain and despair 24/7. We would
yeah,
break. Um,
exactly.
okay, I want to make this its own topic here for timestamp purposes and for conversation purposes. You kind of already sort of talked about it, Sean, but I think we can get more in depth. And Hodge and I have not weighed in. Let's talk about the fan service and specifically the date. So in chapter 12, you get to go on a special date with your waifu. Unfortunately for me, I did not get the date that I wanted. I've said far and away that Aerith is the best girl. I love Aerith so much. She is my waifu. I have to say, Aerith is awesome. I wanted Aerith to show up for the date. When I was hitting L1, she had the blue. I had her at 4. I did all of her side stuff that I could remember doing. Although I missed some side quests. Apparently, I missed an Aerith quest. Unfortunately, when I woke up and I opened my door, instead of Aerith being there, there was make sure the FBI is not here. Unfortunately, Yuffie showed up for my instead of having a romantic date with my waifu, I had to babysit a little kid. Yuffie, I love Yuffie. I really love Yuffie, but like in a pure, wholesome way. Okay, she's like
Yeah.
She's like 15. Okay, we're not doing that. So unfortunately, my date was with Yuffie. It was cool. I mean, we had fun. I got to see Aerith sing. Aerith was singing in the Loveless, which was awesome, dude. The production on that play of Loveless was so good, dude. They did such a good job. And then like you had the little date on the wheel,
Mhm.
whatever, and basically Yuffie's just sitting there talking about how she loves Zach. That was her thing. Like she loves Zach apparently, and she's talking about how that. And I'm like, so this is my date here. Okay, I don't get to be with my waifu. I'm not with Aerith. I'm with this kid. I'm probably going to go to jail. And she doesn't even like me. She's talking about how she likes some other guy named Zach, and I'm just like, I fucked up. Aerith is the best girl. In my mind, I had a date with Aerith, but unfortunately I had Yuffie. Hodge, what was your date like? Tell us about
I went on a date with Aerith as well. But it's because I did everything, and I think the game just defaults to Aerith when everyone's kind of on the same level. I don't
I
know
think so
if
too.
the first one where it gets interrupted because of the gun stuff, the shooting. I think I had Aerith on that one because on the beach beforehand, I chose to go to Aerith's side instead of Tifa's when you had to kind of choose which person to help. And I think that edged it towards Aerith for me. Because I just picked one. I didn't really care. I knew it would be like, oh, this is who you're picking, but I just went to Aerith for whatever reason.
because she's the best girl. Sorry.
But yeah, my brother, I think, went on a date with Tifa, and I think he says they kiss when they're on the Ferris wheel or something. So like, they actually,
I looked it up. Yeah, they do.
yeah. So I thought, I was like, damn, I could have done that one. But but yeah, I went with Aerith because like I said, I was doing everyone's kind of whatever friendship relationship thing. So it just kind of, I think someone said, like, people were complaining that it defaults to Aerith, but I mean that's kind of what the story's supposed to be, because you're supposed to feel that emotional resonance when she dies in the end. But yeah, so I went out with Aerith, and it was it was sweet, like, because it's fun. It is funny, like Cloud is just so, he has like that Drax from Guardians of the Galaxy mentality where he takes everything so seriously, where she's like, I don't know, she'll make some joke of just like, oh, you're gonna kill me doing this. He's like, I would never hurt you. Like that kind of like mindset of like, he doesn't understand that she's like being like, and so she's like, I'm gonna have to teach you to be a little more relationship-y kind of thing. But the one thing I did love during the Gold Saucer date was the little throwback to Jessie, where it shows her poster, and he talks about like, oh, she was a great friend and all that stuff. And of course Thanos is like, oh, was she more than a friend? He's like, no, she's a friend, and I let her die and I failed her, and kind of that kind of thing. But it was a really sweet little tribute to her that I really enjoyed.
It was. Yeah, so I watched on YouTube. I watched all the dates because I wanted to see what I missed. And yeah, you do kiss Tifa, which is great. And actually, weirdly enough, there is a kiss with Yuffie too. When you're on the little wheel with Yuffie, she's sitting there talking about how much she loves Zack for like 5 minutes, and then all of a sudden, for no reason, out of nowhere, she comes over and gives Cloud like a little peck on the cheek. And then she's all embarrassed afterwards. And then it does like the typical anime weeb trope where she's getting off and she's like, "Don't you dare tell anyone what happened here," and runs off all embarrassed. And I'm just like, I'm just sitting there like, one, I'm going to jail, and two, I'm pissed because I didn't get Aerith. Sean, tell us about your date, my friend.
Yeah, so I had Aerith as well, and like I said, that production, in the theater was awesome, and I like the little game that they had to play. But yeah, that throwback to Jessie was really cool. Yeah, really brought me back some like tear, like that's like one of the only, in the end game you get mentions of Jessie, Biggs, and Wedge, because obviously Biggs is in the alternate universe, and they start talking about Wedge a little bit in one of the side quests in the Proto Relic side quest in
Cosmo Canyon, I think.
Cosmo Canyon, yeah, I think it's in Cosmo Canyon, but like that's like the first like throwback to Jessie, and it like just brings back all the feels, and like, oh, I wish he lived.
Yeah.
Why couldn't she just live? But yeah, the Ferris wheel date was pretty cool too. Like I said, I did watch all of them. Funny enough, Midnight? You said you watched all of them. Did you see the boys' night one?
Was
Vincent
that
and
the
Sid.
one with Kate
Vincent,
Sith?
Sid.
Stuff?
Yeah, Kate Sith, Vincent, and Sid.
Yeah, I did watch that. That was funny.
Yeah, they have a guys' night. That's the one my dad got. 'Cause he's in chapter 13 right now. So I asked him this morning after my race. I'm like, "Hey, Dad, did you do the date scene yet?" He's like, "Yeah, I did." I'm like, "Oh, did you do?" I'm like, "Oh, you probably got like Tifa, right? Tifa or Aerith?" He's like, "No, I got the guys' night." Sid. And my dad's a huge. My dad loves Sid. Like he loves Sid in all the. That's like his main thing in all the Final Fantasy games. He's like, "Yeah, I was pretty pumped. I got the Sid one." That's pretty funny.
That's funny. I don't know. I don't know if I would have been more disappointed by getting the boys' night or getting Yuffie, because I was pretty disappointed. Both of those would be pretty disappointing because, don't get me wrong, I really love Yuffie as a character. I think she's awesome, but I don't see her as a romantic partner because she's a kid. She's a little kid.
She's like,
and you can tell,
like 16 and Cloud's 21.
And you can tell her
Yeah.
mannerisms are very childish. So
Yeah.
I don't see Yuffie as a romantic partner. So I was a little bit disappointed, but I do absolutely love Yuffie as a character. She's awesome.
Oh, I
Um,
love Yuffie.
yeah, she's great.
Would
Do
you
you
have
guys
been?
want to transition into the game, or was there something else you guys wanted to get to?
I was gonna say one more thing. Would you have been more disappointed if Red 13 just showed up?
I think I'd rather have Yuffie than Red 13.
Okay.
Because then we're getting into bestiality, and that's a bit weird. No, I'm just kidding.
I
But
I love Yuffie though, because I love her and Barrett's relationship in this game. They're kind of
Mhm.
like the brother and sister, like fighting over just stupid crap all the time. They're
Yeah.
so like, I think Yuffie's adorable. She's so goofy. She's like the really quirky teenager.
Mhm.
She's obsessed with materia. She's adorable. I love
The
Yuffie.
You
number
say
one materia hunter.
Yeah,
you
She's great.
she's a very anime character. Very
yeah,
anime.
yeah.
You say father, you say brother sister. I think like stepfather, like daughter, or you marry someone who has like a kid that she had a kid really young, so he's
Oh,
like only like he's like like maybe like 15 years older than her, and he's like, oh,
yeah,
she's cute. And then
yeah,
somehow he gets stuck with her. Yeah,
yeah,
that's what I was thinking of.
All right.
yeah.
So I do have a game here. I want to end the show on this game. It's going to be fun. But before I do that, I don't want to rush us. Is there anything else for the entirety of the game? Any final bars, any final thoughts that you guys want to get to? I'm going to pass the ball first of all to you, Sean. Final thoughts, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. What else do you want to mention?
I just have some speculation about what the next game's going to be called. And I know Crisis Core was called Crisis Core Reunion, but if it's not Final Fantasy VII Reunion,
That's what I was thinking too.
I'm gonna be I'm gonna be like, whoa, they kept saying reunion, oh, we're gonna
Mhm.
reunion, or something along those lines. But just because they called Crisis Core Reunion, I'm thinking, I'm like, well, will they do that
Mm,
again? So I don't know. That's my thing. I think they will go with reunion. But Hodge, do you have any speculation about what you think it's gonna be called?
Reloaded. It's gonna join the Matrix universe. No,
I
I don't know. Reunion, that's the one that makes the most sense. But yeah, with
think
it being Crisis Core Reunion, that'd be kind of dumb for them to be like, all right, Final Fantasy VII Reunion and Final Fantasy VII Crisis Core Reunion. It's like, I mean, but then again, Japanese games have really stupid names, so
It is Squeenix though.
yeah, I
Kingdom
could
Hearts
358 over 2 days. So kind of, yeah, I could see it, but yeah, it would be kind of crazy if they did call two games in the same franchise Reunion. But other than that, I couldn't think anything else that it would be.
I think they're definitely gonna stick with the like the
Yeah,
RE.
it'll
Yeah.
definitely be well, because didn't they show it off and it started with an R? Like when they announced Reunion, they showed that there's gonna be a third one. It was like had an R, or maybe they wasn't showing that. But I feel like it'll be something.
I was thinking the same thing, Sean, too, when I was watching like the final scene with the plane and they kept mentioning reunion. I was thinking, I bet they're gonna call the third game Final Fantasy VII Reunion. But how about this? Here's a good thought that I had. Final Fantasy VII Return of by far the best girl in the series, Aerith. What do you guys think? That could be the name.
Has a
I like
very
that.
Aladdin 2 Revenge of Jafar.
Because Aerith's gonna come back to
the
life.
Return of the Ancients.
Aerith's going to come back to life, and I'm going to finally get my date with her, and all is going to be well in the universe, my friends.
No, she's
All
gonna
right,
marry Zach.
Sean, are you satisfied with Final Fantasy VII before we get to the game to end it?
Yeah, I'm satisfied. I just hope we get part 3 before 20. I hope we get it by 2028.
Okay,
Let me know.
Hodge, this is your
Yes.
moment. Any final thoughts, last bars, and things you want to say for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth?
No, I mean, one thing I will say is the Junon level was really cool going up into that city, but yeah, it was just an amazing game, and I it was one of the perks of me being unemployed recently is that I was able to just to play it all day every day, and so I was able to kill it in 72 hours in like 3 weeks or whatever. But yeah, I loved this game. I cannot wait for part 3 whenever, hopefully sooner than later, that comes out. This Yeah, for the world of Final Fantasy VII is just so good. I'm gonna replay the original this year because I had the bug, but I was like, I want to start Skyrim, so that's why I went to that instead. But otherwise, I would have gone straight into Final Fantasy VII because I love the original, and I definitely want to replay it and kind of see where the differences are, because it is cool that like I played 114 hours basically between these two games, and the original game is like a 15 to 20 hour game. So I really want to see like how much they expanded on and kind of how simple the original was. But yeah, I love this game. Can't wait for part 3.
Right on. Okay. Let's go ahead and do this here for fun. Before I get into the game, which we're going to end the show with, let's go ahead and let's give it a score. On Midnight Critic, which I like to call, I'm so clever. Midnight Critic, I'm going to rate Final Fantasy VII Rebirth a 94. What do you guys think? What do you think, Hodge? If you had to rate it, I know scores are stupid, but just for fun, what would you rate the game?
Probably like somewhere between like a 91 and a 95, kind of in that range. Because yeah, there's just a couple pacing things that I was like, this wasn't needed, but it's not bad. And then kind of the multiverse thing is kind of a little like, did you have to do that kind of thing? But at the same time, we'll see how it obviously wraps up in the third one. But so yeah, probably low 90s, somewhere in there.
Sean?
A+, 10 out of 10. Spectacular. If I had him as a student, if I had this game as a student, it'd be a star student, exceeds all expectations, demonstrates academic excellence in the classroom.
All right. Okay. I think we've done a great job. I
wait.
had this thought. Oh,
I was going to say, because you asked me this last week when we were with Locke, if I like it better than Remake. What do you guys
yes.
think?
I do like it more. I like Rebirth more.
Yes, I do. I do like it better than Remake, but when I say Final Fantasy VII is my favorite game of all time, I'm including every piece of the Final Fantasy VII universe. So I'm including the original, Remake, Rebirth, Dirge of Cerberus, Crisis Core, First Soldier.
Dirge of Cerberus is overhated. Not overrated, overhated.
I think it's criminally underplayed, too.
Mm-hmm. I loved
People
it.
People hate it and they never played it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's great.
All right. Okay, guys, I think we've had a really fun conversation. We really broke down all the stuff that we loved, a couple things that we didn't. It's a great game. As you see, all of us are giving it super high marks. One of the best games of the year for sure. It's definitely it's great. I thought it would be fun to end this episode with a tier list. This is what we're going to do. I haven't told you guys about this. This is a midnight creation. I just had this idea in my mind. This is what we're going to do. It's just a fun game. I'm going to ask you guys, you have to rate each character on a scale from 1 to 10 by how much you like them as whatever, as overall picture. The character, their story, their combat, period. How much you like them, and then we're gonna tally our scores at the end, and we're gonna rate as like a tier list how much we liked each character. We love all the characters, but who do we love the most? So I'm gonna go ahead and start with Barrett, and I'm gonna pass it to Sean. You have to rate Barrett on a scale of 1 to 10. 1, you didn't like him. 10, you absolutely loved him, and he's the best character ever. What is your score for Barrett, sir?
9.
Barrett gets a 9. Okay, very strong. Hodge, what does Barrett get for you?
I gotta say 9 as well, because I just love how much they expanded his story in this game. And like I said, it was the best emotional beat. I loved playing as him. Like I said, he was the cheat code of the stagger. He's hilarious. He's a loving character. He does everything for his friends and family. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. He might even be a 10. I'm just gonna go with 9, but I don't want to call anyone perfect. Okay. We're not going with anyone, but yeah, Barrett is awesome.
Right. Yep. I'm going to go ahead and give Barrett a 9 as well. I really love Barrett. His combat was great. His character is great. He's a lovable, caring guy. As you mentioned, like his little interactions with Yuffie where they're like fake punching each other and stuff was adorable. He was great. His little story with losing the arm, trying to save his friends. And he was just awesome. So Barrett has a 9s all around. That's a score of 27. Let's go ahead and move on to the next character that I have on the list. And these are in no particular order, people. And it's going to be our main boy, Cloud. Sean, 1 through 10. What is Cloud?
10 out of 10. My favorite video game protagonist of all time. Adore him. Adore his story. Really feel for him. And when he's having these like moments where he's like basically losing his mind, and he knows he's basically losing his mind, and people keep reminding him he's losing his mind.
Mm-hmm.
I just absolutely love Cloud. Always have. 10 on 10.
10 out of 10. Okay. Hodge, what's Cloud?
I'm gonna go. I'm gonna say an 8 because I know, but it's purely because he has that kind of, I don't know if it's like an anime trope or what. He has that trope of he's kind of just a brick wall in terms of his personality, like his backstory and what he's going through, his combat. It's all awesome, but he's that guy who is just like he takes everything way too seriously, and it's obviously, like I said, it's funny in like the Drax way when he just completely like a sarcasm just goes way over his head. He's just too stupid to like notice that he's too serious about it, but I guess, I mean, I could see that it's that because when you go back to his quote unquote flashbacks where he's actually Zack, he has a very upbeat Zack personality, and you could tell that that's not his character because obviously it's not him. But yeah, him himself, he's just kind of he's a little bit of a brick wall for me in personality wise. So I got to knock him a few points for that. But other than that, like what he goes through, his story and everything is awesome. But yeah, I'm gonna give him an 8.
All right. I'm gonna give Cloud an 8 as well. Because he is kind of boring at times. He's also very anime tropist where he's dense. He can't tell at all that Aerith is clearly hitting on him and he has no clue. And Tifa sometimes hits on him and he has no clue. It's like, and also he has moments where I don't fully understand what's going on, but he has moments where he's like completely being like mind controlled by Sephiroth, it seems like, and he's doing stupid stuff like attacking Tifa and handing the black materia to Sephiroth. I don't know why. Hopefully when I play the original game or in part 3, they explain why. I'm guessing it has to do with something with his soldier training. But he's great. He's a great character. He does his best. But I'm going to give him an 8. All right, Sean. You look like you wanted to come in there. Did you want to defend Cloud real quick before we move on?
No, I was just gonna say no. He's just my favorite. So disappointing. He's not going to be number 1. It's okay.
Moving on, the next character that I have on the list is going to be everyone's favorite materia hunter, Yuffie. Yuffie-chan. Sean, 1 through 10, what is Yuffie?
6.
Oof.
She's a 6.
Oof, harsh.
No, like I said, I still like all the characters. Now, we're allowed to give characters the same score that we give previous ones, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, you're rating this character, and it doesn't matter what you gave previous characters. You're just talking
I'd
about
say
Yuffie.
a 6. I like her, but I didn't really, like I said, I didn't gel with her combat that well. She's very little. She's like a little kid. I think. I don't know. I enjoy the other characters a lot more than her. So I will spoiler. She's gonna. This is my lowest rated character. Not a big fan.
That hurts me. All right. Sean or Hodge, Yuffie.
I'm gonna give her an 8. Like I said, I love her. She's goofy and her combat's awesome. The only thing that gets me is there are some times where, like, I understand what her mission and all that is. Especially later on in the game when she finds the dead Wu-Tai soldiers, and that's when she has like a really good emotional beat, and she actually kind of drops the shtick of like, I'm the materia, like that kind of thing. So that is her great moment. But when it's like she basically almost dives into the water because there's a giant materia on the monster's belly, and it's just there's a certain point where it's like, we get it, she's the materia person, I don't need to hear about it every 2 seconds, so I'm gonna knock her a couple points for that. But yeah, I love Yuffie, so I'm not gonna knock it too much.
Right on. I'm gonna go ahead and give Yuffie a 9 for me. I absolutely love Yuffie. She's one of the best characters. She has the best combat in the game, in my opinion. So fun. She is also very funny. There was a funny moment where you're going up an elevator. I want to say it was in like the canyon or something. And Yuffie goes on this long little diatribe. I shared it in Discord. She goes on this long, like 2-minute long diatribe where she's like, we're going to form the Yuffie squad and Cloud's going to join and the whole world is going to be afraid of us and everyone's going to respect us. Yuffie. And then Cloud is just like, will you please shut up? It was so funny. But yeah, I love Yuffie. She's awesome. She's a pure, innocent little kid. Protect her at all costs. She's awesome. And I'm going to give her a 9. So let's move on. The next character that we have in no particular order is everyone's favorite senator, Tifa. Tifa. Sean, Raider.
I'm gonna give Tifa a 10. I really like Tifa a lot. Like I said earlier, when I said we were talking best girl, Tifa was my best girl. I just think that she goes through so much. I think she really cares about everyone in the party, like more than herself.
Mhm.
She goes out of her way to help other people over
She does.
herself. Like I said, I think her backstory, seeing her father just die in a reactor, seeing her hometown burn down, and the emotion she felt when they go back to Nibelheim and they see it's all rebuilt as like a kind of like a cover up. Yeah, so I like Tifa, and
Tifa.
her combat's awesome.
All right, fair enough. So you give Tifa a 10. Hodge, Tifa.
I'm gonna give her a 9. Really, the only thing is, like I said, I wasn't huge on her combat. It wasn't bad. She wasn't the one I enjoyed the most. But yeah, like you said, her story is so good. She's so caring for everyone. I even love the fact that like throughout the game, everyone's like, "You're so beautiful," but she's like so modest that she's like, "I'm okay." It's like, no, you're like literally the hottest person in video game history. But like, and so I just love her like modesty and how much she cares for everyone, and it's yeah, she's awesome. It's just her combat wasn't up there for me, so I'll give her a 9.
Okay. Good stuff. Good stuff. I'm going to go ahead and rate Tifa an 8. I thought Tifa was pretty cool. Like I said, I don't have the luxury of knowing the original game and Crisis Core. I'm sure you get to know her more. I felt like she didn't get as much. I know Sean broke out the numbers and he's like, she has as many lines, but maybe they didn't seem as powerful. I thought Aerith really stole the show in this, and Tifa didn't get as much shine. I like Tifa. Obviously, she's freaking beautiful. If we're judging the girls on best looks, Tifa is winning by far. But Aerith is best girl for me because of the personality and stuff. But we're talking about Tifa. I'm going to give her an 8. Her combat was fun. She's beautiful. I do just want to point out that I think it's lame. Shame on you, Square Enix, for censoring Tifa a little bit. I'm not talking about young Tifa, by the way, at the start, because I think she was like 16 there or something, where they added like a black under shirt, right? But they did that on adult Tifa too. Like when you're playing the main game, she has a black undershirt. If you go back to Rebirth, she did not have that. There was full on cleavage. And as a red blooded male, I got to say that's a downgrade. But it's I'm joking though. It's not a big deal. I'm joking.
I
But
didn't even notice. I
They did-
didn't even notice.
they slightly censored her, but who really cares? I'm just having a laugh here, just joking a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, so she gets an 8 from me. Let's move on to the next character. The next character we're going to have is going to be everyone's favorite cat, Kate Sith. Sean, rate him.
I'm gonna give Kate Sith a 9. I really like him. Comedic. He's very funny. Speaks in like basically riddles a lot of time, and he's funny. And then that part where he turns on them and he goes, "I knew it was gonna be hard, but I didn't. I knew it was gonna hurt, but I didn't think it would hurt this much." Something along those lines. He really grew on me. And as a little kid, I had a Kate Sith plushie when my dad went to Japan in 2003. So shout out to my dad for getting me that. And I still have it. It's at my parents' house, though. But I will, next episode, I'm going to bring it on.
Yeah. So, he's a robot? Like, what's the deal with him? He has
Yeah,
like
there's
clones
like
and
multiple,
shit.
there's like multiple Kate Sith, like,
Okay.
robots.
But he has one conscious though, because he was able to remember.
You'll learn.
I'll learn.
We don't
Okay.
want to spoil anything.
Hodge, Kate Sith, rate.
I'm gonna give him. Sorry, I'm gonna give him like a 6 because he is just kind of I like him, but he's always been the character like in the original and in this one. He's always one I left out of my party. I never used him until I liked when I played with him. I never minded it. I actually did enjoy the plots kind of where he would get off the Moogle to go with like through events to kind of go do something, and then you could summon it again, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, he just was never a character that stuck out to me. I have nothing wrong with him. Like I always kind of found it funny when they say something to me. He goes, "Oh, you mean little old me meow?" Like kind of that kind of stuff. But yeah, he's just like I can't rate everyone a freaking 8 or above. So I just gotta. He's just kind of less memorable. So I'm just gonna put him at a 6 because I never really used him that much.
Fair enough. Yeah, not everyone can be a 9 or a 10. That's fair. I'm going to give Kate Sith a 7. I really liked his character. I love cats. I am a cat person in real life. I think cats I like dogs too. No, shout out to dogs and cats. We don't deserve them. Cats and dogs are both just too good for humans. But yeah, he's a cat. He's adorable. I love the way he talks, especially because I checked him out in English dub, and I mostly played in Japanese though. I thought his Japanese voice was better. Like it was just great. He was so playful and funny. But yeah, shout out to Kate says I give him a 7. His combat, I didn't like his combat at all, but I liked his character, his arc, the betrayal. I understood why he did the betrayal and the redemption at the end. I hope we see him. He's there. He's on the plane, so he's going to be in part 3, and I'm looking forward to more. This brings us to best girl, in my opinion. Let's get to Aerith. This game really was she was kind of like the main character of this game. It was kind of about her, and Cloud, of course. You know, Sean, Aerith, Raider.
I'm gonna give her an 8. Like I said, she really grew on me in this game. Some of the emotional beats, like I said, I teared up when she was killed. Glad that she's living in the multi-universe, and Cloud can kind of still see her in her own universe. I have a feeling she's gonna act as some sort of like a guide for the party in part 3, and like Cloud will be like the messenger between the two. And I think eventually, hopefully, she gets to be brought back where they merge the worlds together in some type of a crazy comic book event.
I hope
Spider-Man will be there.
Hodge?
Goku.
I'm gonna give her a 7, just because I love her and her whole story and her emotional beats, but I didn't care for her combat because she was just kind of a support character. So I just gonna knock her for that. Like her singing, the singing scene was so beautiful. I love when she's performing on stage singing and all that, and obviously the trial where she's trying to find help for her mother and all that. Like she has so many great moments, and she's such a great character. Like I said, she's so innocent and she's lovely. But yeah, her combat, she was a support character, and then I stopped using her. So, though I did enjoy like the temple stuff where you had to like collect the aura kind of stuff to rebuild the buildings and stuff. That was kind of fun. But yeah, she wasn't huge. Wasn't huge on her in combat. So yeah, what I give her, 7, I think. Whatever.
Fair enough. I am going to give Aerith a 10 out of 10. She's perfect. As I have mentioned so many times, I love her. Her combat, I will agree that her combat kind of sucks when you are controlling her. It's not the best. It's just kind of slow, and I feel like the enemy's getting in on you too much. But she was an amazing support, like I talked about. Really, like I said, crank up the magic damage on her, put Comet and the synergy materia together, and have her just cast free comets nonstop while you're playing as Tifa or whoever you want to play as. She's really strong in that role, and also she is the best healer because she has the highest magic attack. So I think she's really good in combat, just not so much when you control her yourself. But I'm going to give Aerith a 10. I absolutely love her. I pray to God that we somehow are able to bring her back to life in part 3. As I understand, I don't think that happened in the original, but hopefully they retcon and bring her back. All right, so that's Aerith. Let's move on to, I think this is the final one. I hope I'm not forgetting anyone that's playable. We have Red 13. Sean, rate him.
Red 13, I'm going to give a strong 7. He would have been an 8, but when he goes to that child voice, it didn't fit what I thought of as a kid. He goes to that child voice, and I'm like, what? You sound like Simba when he's in Lion King.
The Matthew Broderick Simba.
Yeah. No, I do like him, but the voice when he goes back to the kid voice, it does kind of threw me off a lot. I do like his combat a lot, and like I said, that when you're in the trial and you see the backstory of him getting tattooed with 13 on him. But yeah, I'd go with a 7.
Okay, Hodge.
I'm gonna go with a 7 as well. His combat was fun. His story wasn't as impactful as it was great, obviously, but it wasn't as impactful as like Aerith's or Barrett's or Tifa's or any of their stories. So I'm gonna knock him down for a little bit for that. But yeah, his what was the power where you had to use 2 ATB gauges and it was like just a big explosion? No, it was like a big explosion thing.
Okay,
yeah, I can't remember what it was called, but that was so powerful. I used that. He was always, if it was a fire weakness enemy, I always threw him in because he was so good with that. But yeah, his story, the kid stuff, I thought it was kind of a little goofy twist, but yeah, it was a little like jarring. But yeah, so I'll give him a 7.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and give Red 13 a 6. His combat was cool. I thought he was really good at filling up the stagger gauge. He was pretty good at that. But I just didn't care that much for his story too much. I thought it was kind of tragic how he was abused by Hojo, and like I said, I really hate Hojo and I want to kill him. And one of the main reasons I hate Hojo so much is because of what he did to Red 13. Like during the trial, you see him. That really hit me. I didn't like that. But Red 13, I liked him, but he was probably my least favorite of the bunch. So I'm gonna give him a 6. All right. So let's go ahead and tally the results, people. This is what we have. This is the definitive Games Over Plastic tier list. I'm gonna go from worst to best. None of them are bad. But the character that we liked the least was Red 13 with a score of 20. That was the score when we added it together. The second person was Kate Sith with a score of 22. So those were kind of like the two animal side characters. I guess that makes sense. Next after that, we had Yuffie with the score of 23. She was the one after that we liked the least, I guess, or best. After that, we had Aerith coming in. She had a 25 score. And I guess fittingly enough, the core 3 were our 3 favorites. We have, let me look at the math here. Cloud got a 26. So he was our 3rd favorite. And then there was a tie. Both Barrett and Tifa were tied for our favorites with a combined score of 27. So there we go. It's definitive. Games Over Plastic. The best 2 characters in the game are Barrett and Tifa. Next is Cloud, then is Aerith, and then we had Yuffie, and then at the bottom we had the 2 animals, Kate Sith and Red 13. So that's going to do it for us. As we've been going for an hour and 45 minutes, that's a lot longer than I thought we would do, but it's a great game and we had a great discussion. So we're going to go to final thoughts and wrap this up. Sean, what are your final thoughts or anything else you want to get to as we close out this episode?
Amazing game, 10 out of 10, A+, demonstrates academic excellence. Can't wait for part 3. Please be here. I hope it comes out in 2028, but honestly, take your time. It will be here when it will be here, and I can't wait.
Right on. Hodge, final thoughts?
Valedictorian student. Yeah, I loved it. Loved every minute of it. When I finished it at like 70 something hours, I couldn't believe I put that much time in it. It did not feel like I put that much time into it, because there have been games you finish where it's like a 20-30 hour game. You're like, can I just get to the end of this thing already? And when I remember opening it once, it was at like 64 hours or something. I was like, I really already put that much time in this game. Holy crap. Like it never felt like I was just like, when am I getting done with this thing? So I loved it. I cannot wait for part 3. Yeah, I adore this game. I know I say adore a lot and people giving me shit for that, but yeah, I love I love this game.
All right. Yep, and I loved it too. Like I said, 94 out of 100 on Midnight Critic. Probably the best game that I've played that has come out. Definitely the best game that I've played that has come out this year. So it's right now leading the pack for me for Game of the Year for 2024. Although it is not the best game that I've played this year, because I played Baldur's Gate 3 before this, and personally I thought that was a better game. But they're both phenomenal. This was an awesome game. I freaking love it. So that is going to do it for us, guys. This has been special episode number 1. The Final Fantasy VII Rebirth spoiler cast is done. Please clap, everybody. Please clap. We're done. And we're out. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.
Stay gold, Cloud. Stay gold.